We are back and welcome to another edition of Irish Rewind. George, how are you, man?
Hey, Dalton, good to hear from you.
Yeah, I know
Long
we've
time.
been on a little bit of a break, but we're back now. Have a lot of news to discuss regarding the university and all the athletics going on. So, just to give you guys a quick preview on what we're going to talk about today, we're going to break down the end of the Irish hockey season, kick it over into some spring football news, and then wrap up with some exciting women's Final Four talk about the Notre Dame women's basketball team. Real quick before we get started, just want to acknowledge some recent news that happened this week. The Alliance of American Football, obviously suspending operations and ultimately shutting down. Just want to extend our thoughts and prayers to all the not only Notre Dame players, but all the players, employees, coaches, everyone involved. It's a rough situation. George, I actually saw some reports where players were stranded and forced to pay their own way to get back to their homes.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And I'm sure there'll be this is the last, well, this won't be the last we hear of the AAF, but I'm sure there's going to be some litigation potentially involved someplace down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of reports coming out there. Going to work on getting some stuff out myself as far as some of the rumors and separating fact from fiction there. But moving right along.
It was up to the point that they almost were trying to deny that it was actually happening. That was the surprising part.
Well, here's what the prevalent rumor seems to be, and I emphasize rumor, is that Tom Dundon, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, obviously made news earlier in the year when he bought into the league after I believe it was week one, promised to invest $250 million into the league. Well, he made news again earlier this week when he made a statement that without the support of the NFLPA and giving the AAF teams bottom of the roster type players, practice squad type players, that the AAF couldn't survive. So, he kind of started some waves there. And then just a few days later, obviously, we know what happened. But the rumor seems to be that Tom bought into the league just because he wanted the gambling app or gambling technology that the league was developing. And once he got his hands on that, he pulled the plug so he didn't have the headache of dealing with the league. So that's something to watch. Like I said, it's a big rumor, but there's a lot of murkiness surrounding that whole situation.
Gambling's never a good conversation sometimes.
Especially when it involves the health of a league.
Sure.
But moving right along, what's going on with the Notre Dame hockey program, George? I know obviously their season came to an end, but some positive signs and good things to look forward to moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, the men they didn't get as far as they wanted to. They made it into the tournament of 16. Made it to the second day, which was the day after they had won 3-2 on an overtime goal by Cam Morrison. And when you got to play the number one seed on short sleep and play an overtime game, it doesn't always work out the best for you. So unfortunately, they went down 4-0. I was just the goals were just racking up, and they try to get their goalie in with the extra attacker, and well, as they say, the rest is history.
We've talked earlier in the year. I mean, even though the season didn't end ultimately like you would like it to, the hockey team there at Notre Dame, they have a really bright future with some young and talented players. Am I right?
They absolutely, in my eyes, they overachieved. They are way ahead of schedule. Coach just talks about the guys, letting the game come to them, especially later in the season. They were playing playoff hockey. They're playing for their hockey lives. Let's be honest, since late in January, early February. So it's kind of hard to play cardiac style hockey and try and move on. Eventually, the tank's going to go empty. But you know what? Coach Jackson knows how to get his players motivated. Sometimes you just run out of gas. So next year, I see good things for this team coming next year, and I'll be very excited to get back into the Compton Family Ice Arena and see those guys get at it again. But the other news is the I would say the down news that came this week was that the captain Andrew Peak signed a contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he'll be foregoing his senior season. So, as in football, you always like to see your juniors come back for senior year, get a little bit of that leadership engaged, and help the younger guys out. But they're going to have to go it next year without Andrew Peak. There's been no other reports of any other players leaving for the pros or contracts. So it's a good thing right now that Andrew Peak is the only one that has left to date.
Well, moving on to obviously the hottest topic year round, it seems like, is the football team. George, have you looked at any of the spring practices or maybe the pro days or anything that's happened so far on campus?
Well, I'll tell you, the funny part was I was actually reading up on some stuff, and Jack Nolan was talking to Tony Pride Jr. and saying, "Hey, you're the old guy in the secondary," and he's a junior.
What a scenario that is.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting spring. There's been, the conversations going around about Dracovic performing pretty well in spring ball.
I would like to take this moment, if I could cut in here for a second, to just let everybody.
Sure, that's your boy. That's not a problem.
I want to let everybody listening at home know that I called that he was going to take the starting spot from Book about 2.5 months ago.
Yes, you did.
If that happens, I expect to have a parade thrown in my honor in South Bend, especially if he does well. So carry on, George.
So yeah, it's just good to see that there's football in the air and people making arrangements to stay the night for next weekend here, and it's going to be a football weekend next Saturday. There's going to be football in Notre Dame Stadium. Let it be blue versus gold, but you know what? There'll be guys on the field. There'll be an umpire. There'll be referees and umpires and field judges, whatever, on the field. Everyone will be kicking off the winter rust in the press box. It'll be a good experience.
And we will both be there.
Yes, sir.
Well,
yes, we will.
It seems that a couple names have stood out thus far in practice. Dalen Hayes reportedly has been very productive so far on defense. And then moving over to the offensive side of the ball, a couple young guys, you like to see that. Joe Wilkins and Tommy Trimble, both putting in work in practice. And that's being reported by Brian Drixel of Blue and Gold Illustrated. So, it's nice to see some of the younger guys leaving impressions. You don't want to find yourself graduating your talent and having nothing coming in behind them.
How can it be that Jafar Armstrong is a junior?
Right. I feel like he's been at the university since Manti Te'o?
And so Jafar, be there at running back. I'm looking here at some position guys here on some data that I received. And, it's not a depth chart per se, but it just lists the players out by positions. And what's sticking out to me is Jafar Armstrong. I think he's going to be fabulous. The guys last year wanted to change his name from Jafar to Jafast. So I may have to pick up on that in my articles this coming season. Let's see here. Chris Fink coming back as a fifth year. That's going to be wonderful in the slot receiver position there.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Phil does with Chris Fink all season.
I think the big surprise of the spring, and it's coming out of baseball, it's the whole Cole Kmet dropping baseball to focus on football. Folks,
That's huge.
you're talking about a guy that is a pitcher for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, doing pretty darn good, and telling his coach, I'm going to focus on football. Typically, you have guys going in the reverse direction, saying, you know what, I'm gonna stick with the football thing, and I'm gonna go with the baseball thing, and skip out on the football. So,
well, George, I got to throw it out there for those that don't know. I want to address my absence, why we haven't done the show in a couple weeks. And it's a perfect segue. You talk about focusing on baseball. I saw the contract that Mike Trout signed with the Angels.
Oh my God!
I tried to quit our podcast and play baseball, but it turns out I'm not good. So here I am. I find my way back to Irish Rewind.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and until I can find something in writing sports that pays my bills, I'm not leaving you, Dalton.
Well, if anybody out there is listening and wants to offer me $430 million, I will definitely listen. So, real quick, just want to touch on this. We don't want to mention any names, but I'm shocked that one of the former Notre Dame players posted a video to his social media earlier this week, and it didn't get caught in the national headlines. Does that surprise you, George?
Absolutely did. I saw it. I immediately turned it off. I did not even address it because, nope. It has its time and its place, and don't know what's going on there. So,
well,
don't want to. It's not. You're not doing that, Dalton. You're just making mention of it. But these guys got to realize people are watching, and it all goes back to draft day. Get off your Twitter, get off your Instagram, get off your Facebook. General managers don't want to see crap like that, period.
I mean, it seems every year that we see a very talented player either post something silly or someone finds an old tweet or an old post from them, scrolling through their social media, and all of a sudden they go from, picked in the third round and now picked in the fourth or fifth round, or they fall even further.
Yep. And then meanwhile, you got guys like Nick Wisher and Alex Bars, right? That are trying to get on spots. So very interesting. Social media, I'm telling you, man.
Hopefully that clears up. So we'll keep an eye on that. And for those listening, don't be surprised if something gets picked up in the national waves here in the next week or two. Anyhow, moving on to some positive news. Let's talk about women's basketball. Down there to sunny Tampa, Florida.
Yeah. Interesting news today coming out of the press conferences. I picked some stuff up from The Wire. Gino Auriemma has come out and says that Notre Dame is the best basketball team in the nation.
Wow.
So you can go with the fact that he's being modest. He's, openly saying that to the team and to the media. Or is it the start of the mental game 2 days ahead of the game starting?
There's a thing that I like to think when people play Notre Dame and they're really hitting all cylinders. Really, all you can do is sit there and say, "Oh, quap," and I mean that's about it. That's an inside joke between some of us at Blue HQ Media for any of those listening. But I mean, honestly, George, when the women are playing like they can to their full potential, they're almost unstoppable. I saw a recent WNBA mock draft. It was from ESPN, and it had, there's 12 teams, 3 rounds, and I want to say it had 6 or 7 Notre Dame women's basketball players in that draft. I mean, that's phenomenal for one draft in 3 rounds.
We got to be careful there too, because in that rumor mill, Dalton, is Jackie Young, and I know what you've been saying about her, and I've given you the credit. Yes. I call her. I've been calling her the silent assassin all season. And if we lose Jackie Young to the draft, devastation to the program at Notre Dame. They need her senior leadership next year. She will be the only senior on that team next year. The rest will be filled by underclassmen, followed by Abby Prohaska. By the way, I've deemed her the next Jackie Young. She plays really, really hard, and literally on Sunday she ripped the ball out of the girls' hands from. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm very concerned if Jackie Young leaves for the WNBA.
Well,
but some numbers, the numbers are staggering. Notre Dame on Sunday at one point in the first quarter, their numbers were just they weren't Notre Dame numbers. They were shooting at 20% where their opponent was shooting at 30% in Stanford. The second period, they moved up to they were shooting 31.6, which improved their average to 25.6% shooting overall. And with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, they took the lead and never looked back. So the thing is, you got to play 4 quarters of basketball against Notre Dame. Notre Dame needs to play smart tomorrow. If they don't play smart tomorrow and they fall into the head game of Gino Auriemma, game over. Because we saw that Enrique got teed up back in December with some comment back to Gino when he had actually initiated the contact.
I'm calling it now, Notre Dame by 20.
Wow. 20?
20.
I would have gone I was going to go 12.
I'm saying 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they make a statement. I think they roll into the national title game, and I think they don't need Enrique to hit a buzzer beater this time. They win that game and call it a back-to-back championship and end the season.
I think that Jackie Young's going to be the MVP. If they go all the way, I think Jackie Young's the MVP.
I could see that, but my vote is Shepherd. Really like what Shepherd does. She gives them a dominating presence in the post, and I really like her game, and I think that she's vastly undervalued for what she does.
She had crazy numbers, by the way. Her stat line for Sunday's game, by the way, it went 5 lines deep.
Jeez.
11 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and I can't remember what the other one is. But her stats went 5 positive ranges deep. That's huge. No one else had that output. Jackie Young had 25 points, and she only had a couple points in the first quarter. She came out of no place for 25, 10 rebounds.
Jeez.
So, you know what? This team, I mean, they're playing as a team, but there's only one concern that I have, and that's with Mabry. I'm really concerned about Mabry. Ever since the knee that she went out with, she's not been the same. The three's not fallen. She's kind of timid. So I'm concerned there for Mabry, but there's other folks there to pick her up, and she still has a presence. But you got to respect it.
Well, you heard it here first. Notre Dame by 20 over UConn, and Phil Jerkovich starting quarterback week 1 against Louisville. Anything else, George, before we wrap up?
I can't top that, man.
All right.
That's going out there.
Well, thanks everybody at home that's listening to us. Just want to give a special thanks to our on location today, Big Ben Coffee in Kokomo, Indiana. They were great for having us out. and giving us a room in the back to record this. That's awesome. As always, we will see you next week. Where can they find you, George?
ShakedownTheThundersports.com, on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Tumblr. I've added a couple on. And next week will be the blue and gold edition.
I like it.
We'll be getting ready for the blue and gold game.
You can find me on Sports Media Pass, breakthefourth.com. And starting soon, you'll be able to see a little bit of George's work on Sports Media Pass as well. So looking forward to that. As always, I've been Dalton. George, thanks for coming out. This is Irish Rewrite, and we'll see you next week.
Go Irish.